Hello class and welcome back to World History. In this video we will be going over Unit 1 Part 1, talking about exploration and exchange and looking at chapters 20, pages 444 through 465. We're going to be looking at the three major sections of chapter 20, section 1, 2, and 3, and answering the questions, does the events of the Age of Exploration affect us today? And was the Age of Exploration something that helped the world, or did it hurt it, or anything else? As we go through, think about our objectives. Students will learn about the Age of Exploration, how it was started, who was involved, and its impact on society. Make sure to take some time to write down our vocabulary words as you go through. They're also on the notes that are attached to this video, as well as some reminders to check your plan for assignments due this week. Complete the participation quiz after watching this video, and make sure to check your schedule for what times you have live sessions with me this week. So first off, what is the Age of Exploration? Well, the Age of Exploration was a period in time starting around the 13 and 1400s, really gaining momentum in the 16th century. During this, most countries and most nations were motivated to trade goods, especially spices, from Asia. They wanted three major things. They wanted God, they wanted to spread Christianity throughout these areas, they wanted glory, fame, and historical recognition for finding new land and conquering peoples, and finally gold, money, as well as spices and other goods that could help grow these nations. They wanted these things, and so they were going to try to find ways to get them. However, the Ottoman controlled most of the land routes through Africa and the Middle East to get to Asia. So most of the European nations couldn't do this. And so in order to begin to gain exploration and gain these items that they wanted, these resources and the three G's, they began trying to find other trade routes, especially over ocean routes. And this was possible because new technology was being invented during this time. We have two major new technologies. You have the caravel, which was a type of sturdy ship that allowed for easy passage along land routes. It made it easier to go longer journeys, as well as made it just a little bit faster and less likely to find yourself stuck at sea or shipwrecked because of storms. You also had the astrolabe, which was kind of invented and improved upon during this time, that allowed captains to navigate using the stars, which helped them coordinate where they were going overseas a little bit better, which made it super easy during this time to begin to really sail across oceans and travel via ocean trade routes instead of just having to go by land. One of the first people to do this was Prince Henry the Navigator, who was the Prince of Portugal. He was considered to be the pioneer that really started the Age of Exploration. He started this whole process by trying to find trade routes to Asia. And again, like I said, he wanted to spread Christianity to these areas, as well as map out Africa and establish settlements. Another big one that you might know of is Christopher Columbus. He sailed for Spain, and he wanted to find routes to Asia as well. He believed that the earth was round, as many others at this time did, and that if he sailed, just kept sailing west, he would just come around the world and find Asia. As we know, he didn't find Asia. He found the New World, what we know as the Americas today, and him, along with others, sailed to many different ports. So you have this guy named Cairo in 1482. He was the first major sailor who kind of sailed down from Europe and began our first little leg into Africa. And then you have Diaz in 1487, who actually mapped out all of the coast of Africa and went all the way to the Cape, which was a big increase at the time. You have Da Gama, who sailed in 1498, and he sailed from where he sailed all the way down from where Diaz sailed, and then mapped out all the other side of Africa and up all the way to Asia. He got all the way to India, which is where he wanted to go. So that was awesome. And then we have Colon, who sailed from 1492 to 1493, and he went to the Americas, right? He went with Columbus, and he sailed all the way across the ocean into what we know as the Caribbean islands, and then back to Europe. We have the Magalhaens, who sailed in 1519 and mapped all the way around the world. First person to ever go completely around the world and all the way back. Really cool. We have Capito, who sailed in 1497. This person was from England and sailed from the upper parts of the Americas and back to England. And then you have de Veranzo, who sailed from France and sailed over from France to the Americas and back. And these are kind of our major people who kind of helped map the Americas as we know it, mapped Africa and Asia as we know it, as Europeans, and really began this age of exploration of kind of exploring the world and sailing and finding different routes to different areas. We also have new lands being named during this time and beginning to really circular the world. And the rise of many different trade empires. We have England, Dutch, France, Portugal, and Spain are our major trading empires. They also began to conquer during this time. Spain began to conquer the New World. Spain would take over America. Cortez was a Spanish soldier. He would take over the Aztec area and kind of conquer that area. Perazo would take over the Incas, kind of take over most of what we know as Middle America and Latin America. You also have the rise of Western imperialism during this time, especially Portugal would take over Brazil. We really began to see this act of imperialism, of beginning to take over and colonize and conquer lands. And where they wanted glory, and to get glory, you conquered. You have other trading empires that would begin to merge. Like I said, we have the Dutch, France, and of course England. England would begin to really gain momentum and would become one of the leading colonizer of this time. In addition, you have global contact and consequences. As these different groups began to trade and exchange goods across the ocean, you began to see the Columbian Exchange. And this is where goods from the New World, from the Americas, would be traded for goods from the Old World. You would have things like potatoes, tomatoes, corn, avocados, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, turkeys, would all go to Europe and exchange cows and livestock like cattle, sheep, pigs, and horses, onions, bananas, citrus fruits like oranges and lemons, pears, and coffee beans, and honeybees would all go to the Americas. In addition to trading goods and resources, though, you would also have the spread of diseases. People from Europe had quite a few different diseases like smallpox, malaria, influenza, as well as like the whooping cough, and these would be transferred to the native people of the Americas, causing a lot of death and destruction. In addition, you have the rise of different types of economic trading. With this new type of trading and being able to trade over a wide variety of places with a wide variety of people, you have different types of economic goals begin to kind of pop up. You have mercantilism, which was an English concept. Whoever commanded the trade of the world commanded the riches of the world and therefore commanded the world itself. Was this idea of mercantilism? You wanted to have control, monopoly, gain control. You had also the belief of capitalism. A lot of, before this, most trade and most economic structures and businesses were owned and operated by the government. Now we see this introduction of people owning individual businesses and beginning to gain profits and really become widely renowned with this capitalism. Individual businesses owned and operated by people and not overviewed by government in any way. You also have this concept of the joint stock company. This is a very important vocab word, joint stock company. A company owned by investors that share the profit. So you would have people who would group together in order to pool their resources, buy up stock, maybe buy a colony, and begin to gain profit in that way. This is a very important concept. Make sure to take some time to look over it in the notes. You also have the development of the Atlantic slave trade. As all of these goods began to be processed in the New World, labor was needed for processing, and people from Europe would begin to also go to Africa and take slaves from Africa and bring them to the New World in order to be the labor, and then they would produce goods which would go to Europe and be manufactured, which would then be traded with people from Africa for more slaves. And so you have this triangular trade of raw materials, manufactured goods, and then slaves going all across the world. This would result in a lot of exchange, both good and bad exchange. Of course, you have the introduction of slavery at this time, as well as racial slavery, which was a newer concept of the time and really a byproduct. And we'll talk more about that in class. But you really see this new transition of life from kind of being an isolated age to this age of exploration, of going across the ocean, of trading, of new technology rising up, finding trading routes to Asia, exploring Africa and going west, discovering a whole new world to kind of gain from. You have the colonialism and trade beginning to really rise. You see the Columbian Exchange, as well as the African slave trade triangle, and then you have, of course, the rise of imperialism, this concept of gaining people and gaining resources and imperializing or taking control of people. Like mercantilism said, if you control it, you own it, and you control the world. We'll talk more about imperialism in class, as well as in our next lecture video, and kind of how it really affected the world. But for now, if you need any help from me, this is my information. You can call or text me, come to office hours, or email me at my email right here after class. Don't forget to complete your participation quiz after this video. It is for participation grades, so make sure to get that done. And just really take a second to think about our two essential questions from today, Does the event of the age of exploration affect us today? Has it done anything for us? Does it affect our lives? And was this a good thing? Did it help the world? Did it hinder the world? Keep that in mind. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the live classes.